Although 2020 was rough and hard, there's positive in everything. The Raider Voice would like to share with you our positive outcomes of 2020.
One thing I enjoyed about 2020 was signing my national letter of intent to Holy Cross, where I'll be spending my next 4 years.
One thing I enjoyed about 2020 was that during quarantine I was able to spend more time with my family.
Alright, so this summer I got to spend a lot of time with my brother who I don't see often, and we got to do really like manly things. Like we got to learn like hardware stuff and you know putting together stuff. We help out with my dad because he's a really handyman kind of guy. I also learned how to cook properly because he's a really good chef, and I was just grateful for this summer to be able to spend time. And I don't think without this pandemic, like it just wouldn't have happened, you know.
Being with my friends and my teammates for so long in 2020 made me realize how much I appreciate them and how much I appreciate spending time with my family. And I'm really grateful to be able to go to school and play sports again in person.
So for me, 2020 has really allowed me to take a step back and reevaluate what my interests are and how I am as a person away from the influences of modern society. I actually learned how to knit this pandemic, which really was something that I've always wanted to do since I was 10 or 11, and I really had the time to learn how to do it. I also really got to embrace my interests in history and reading.
While 2020 was a pretty challenging year for all of us, I guess something positive that I got out of it was that I got to focus more on the things that I personally like to do, like building computers. It wasn't really something that I always had time for till, I guess, the pandemic started and we all went into quarantine.
2020 was an extremely trying year. I was able to spend more time with my brother.
So 2020 was a really rough year for all of us, but I for one really appreciated how I found really creative ways to still meet with my friends and see them just online, and being able to just always kind of feel connected to them even if we weren't necessarily together in person. And the same thing goes for my teachers. I've made connections with a lot of them, even though I necessarily haven't been able to see them in person this year, and I really appreciated that.
One thing I liked about 2020 was the fact that I was able to practice basketball a lot. I played a lot, and I don't know, I feel like without the pandemic, I wouldn't have been able to practice like that. Another thing that I liked about 2020 was I actually learned a lot of lessons. I learned to love my family more and spend more time with them because nobody's here forever.